farmer helped a veteran in a blizzard. Military showed up at his farm. In a freezing storm, a farmer shared half his only meal with a trembling veteran by the road. He said softly, "I'm not wealthy, but you need this." A day and a half later, while tending his fields, 7 sleek military trucks rolled up to his gate. The first man to step out had made a vow in the blizzard. Visit and honor if you think kindness in a storm can warm a lifetime. Snow fell like a heavy curtain from a stormy sky. Each flake added weight to Jacob Wren's tired shoulders. At 62, his body recalled the burning sands of Afghanistan more kindly than it should have. There, pain had a reason. Here, on a lonely Nebraska road, the February wind sliced through his worn coat like a blade. His hands, once steady enough to fix a rifle blindfolded, now shook as they held 2 treasures. A faded photo of a woman with a warm smile and a small bag with 2 medals. Proof Jacob Wren was once someone who mattered. "Just a bit farther," he whispered, his words lost in the wind's roar. The forecast promised the storm would ease by dawn, but forecasts had let him down before. Like the endless VA forms that never went through. Or the, "We'll call you," from employers who saw his service but not his struggles. A flickering diner sign glowed through the snow. A promise of warmth. Jacob's heart raced, not with hope, but with fear of being turned away. Still, freezing was worse, so he trudged to the diner's wall. The overhang gave little shelter, but it was something. Jacob pressed against the wall, trying to hide while soaking up any heat leaking out. Through the window, he saw families and drivers eating hot food, their faces bright with talk, untouched by the cold outside. Mustering his strength, Jacob opened the door, the warm air stinging his frozen skin. "Excuse me," he said to the waitress, his voice rough. "I don't want trouble. Can I sit in the entry to wait out the storm? I won't bother anyone." The young woman eyed his torn jeans, mismatched layers, and old army cap. Her face tightened. "Sorry, sir, this is for paying customers," she said loudly, making diners turn. "There's a shelter in Clearview. About 12 miles west." 12 miles, Jacob thought. In this storm, it might as well be 1,000. "Can I stand here just a minute to warm up?" he asked. A manager appeared, his brow creased. "Is there a problem, Sarah?" "No problem," Jacob said fast. "I'm going." "Good," the manager said, opening the door wider. "We can't have you scaring customers." Jacob stepped back into the storm, the door shutting firmly. Through the window, he saw diners glance at him, then return to their meals. His rejection a brief disturbance. He slid down the diner's wall, sitting on the icy ground, knees to his chest to keep warm. The wind grew sharper, piercing his clothes like needles. Jacob closed his eyes, holding the photo of his wife. Clara, closer. Clara had passed 2 years ago. Cancer outpacing the insurance claims. After her funeral, the PTSD he'd controlled for her sake roared back. Taking his job, his home, and his bond with their daughter. Who couldn't understand why he couldn't pull himself together? The sound of hooves and wheels broke his thoughts. Through the snow, a horse-drawn cart appeared. Odd even for rural Nebraska. The cart slowed near the diner, and the driver, a rugged man about 60, looked out from under a thick hood. Their eyes met, and Jacob looked away, not wanting to seem like he was begging. The cart passed, and Jacob sank back into his cold misery, wondering how long he could last before his body gave out. To his surprise, the hooves returned minutes later. The cart stopped, and the farmer climbed down, moving stiffly. Up close, Jacob saw he was older, maybe late 50s, with deep lines around his eyes and a slight hunch. Without a word, the farmer offered a thermos. "Hot stew," he said simply. Jacob hesitated, years of caution battling his desperation. "Take it," the farmer urged. "It's potato and beef, my wife's old recipe." Jacob took the thermos, the warm steam nearly bringing tears as he sipped. The warmth and kindness overwhelmed him. The farmer returned with a thick blanket and a coat. "This should fit better than yours," he said. "It's old but warm." "I can't," Jacob started. The farmer stopped him with a shake of his head. "Name's Samuel Holt. Got a farm a mile from here." He glanced at the diner. "They turned you away, didn't they?" Jacob nodded, ashamed. Samuel's face darkened, then softened as he helped Jacob up. "I'm no rich man," Samuel said plainly, but with deep sincerity. But you deserve better. You deserve respect. As Jacob put on the warm coat, Samuel added, I've got a barn with a stove. It's simple, but it's dry. Stay there tonight. For the first time in years, Jacob felt something shift inside, not breaking, but warming. The next morning was crisp and clear. The storm gone. Samuel Holt woke early, as always, despite staying late to settle his guest. He'd given Jacob a cot by the stove, a hot meal, and listened quietly as Jacob shared bits of his life, war, Clara's death, and his slow fall. Samuel said little about himself, preferring to hear Jacob's story. As he fed his animals and checked storm damage, his mind kept drifting to a letter he'd received last week. At 59, Samuel was the third Holt to farm this land. His grandfather bought the first 90 acres with mill wages. His father grew it to 130. Samuel kept it going through floods, droughts, and shifting markets. Never rich but always enough, until now. A tax reassessment had doubled his property taxes. A crushing blow for a small farmer. He had a month to appeal or pay, both seeming impossible. While checking his goads, Samuel saw Jacob step out of the barn, looking better. Jacob had washed, trimmed his beard with Samuel's scissors, and stood taller. Morning, Samuel called. Sleep okay? Jacob nodded. Best in years. I can't thank you enough. Mr. Holt. Samuel, he corrected. No thanks needed. Coffee's on in the house. At Samuel's old kitchen table, Jacob noticed the tax letter by Samuel's elbow. Samuel quickly gathered the papers. Just paperwork, he said lightly. Don't worry about it. Before Jacob could reply, a truck rolled into the yard, tires crunching snow. Through the window, Samuel saw Tom Carver, his neighbor to the east. What's he want? Samuel muttered, heading to the door. Tom Carver was a big farmer, with modern gear and 900 acres. He'd wanted Samuel's land for years. Morning, Samuel, Tom said coolly, eyeing Jacob. Got a guest? Just helping someone who needed it. Samuel replied. What's up? Tom held up a newspaper. County's pushing the new tax rates hard. Word is, they'll auction land by summer if folks don't pay. Samuel's face stayed calm, though his gut twisted. That's so? My offer's still good, Tom said. I'll pay fair for your West 50. It'd fix your tax problem. Samuel's West 50 had his best soil and well. Selling it would start his farm's end. Thanks, but no, Samuel said firmly. Tom glanced at Jacob. Didn't think you could afford strays these days. Charity's costly when you're barely afloat. Jacob stood taller, his soldier's stance returning. I'm leaving, sir. Mr. Holt just gave me shelter. Tom smirked. Kind, huh? Around here, we call it foolish. After Tom left, warning about the tax deadline, Samuel sat, troubled. Don't mind him, he told Jacob. Tom's been after my land since his dad passed. Jacob studied Samuel. Those papers are about taxes, aren't they? Samuel sighed. County doubled my rate. They're pushing out small farms for big companies. He forced a smile. But that's my worry, not yours. Jacob looked at his borrowed coat and coffee. I should go. You've got enough trouble. Without being decent? Samuel said fiercely. My dad said you judge a man by what he does in hard times. He slid a plate of bacon across. Eat. We'll figure your next move after. Later, as Samuel fixed a fence, a neighbor, Ellen Tate, stopped by with a pie. A habit when someone struggled. Heard about the taxes, she said. Also heard you've got a veteran in your barn. News spread fast in small towns. Samuel nodded, taking the pie. Thanks. Ellen whispered. Is it true he's homeless? Diner folks said he looked rough. He's a man who served and hit hard times. Samuel said. Nothing rough about him. Ellen frowned. You got a big heart. Samuel. But charity's risky when you might lose your farm. Risky? Samuel said. The word sharp. Like ignoring someone freezing right in front of me? Ellen shook her head. What would your dad say? Samuel's smile was firm. He'd say I'm doing what a Holt does. As Ellen left, Samuel worked harder, unsure how to save his farm but certain he wouldn't betray his values. The next day was bright. Snow piled high. Samuel was up before dawn, doing chores when Jacob joined him in the barn. Let me help, Jacob said, grabbing a shovel despite Samuel's protests. They worked together quietly, Jacob's movements smoother as his body recalled old skills. By noon, they'd done a day's work. You're good with animals, Samuel said. Ever farm? Jacob nodded. Grew up on one in Kansas. Small, but we had pigs, some wheat. His face darkened. Long time ago. Samuel wanted to ask what led from Kansas to this, but he saw Jacob wasn't ready. You've still got the knack, Samuel said. Thanks for the help. While fixing a gate, engines rumbled in the distance. Samuel squinted, seeing dust on his gravel drive. Expecting anyone? Jacob asked, tensing. Samuel shook his head. No. 5 vehicles appeared. 2 black SUVs with official plates. A military-style truck, and 2 vans with emblems Samuel couldn't read. Military? Jacob said, his face unreadable. And high-ranking. From those escorts, Samuel added. Samuel thought they might be here for Jacob. Maybe trouble. But Jacob looked as puzzled as Samuel felt. The convoy stopped at the farmhouse. Parking with precision. From the lead SUV stepped a tall man in a sharp uniform. Ribbons gleaming. Others followed in mixed uniforms, forming a group that walked toward Samuel and Jacob by the gate. Jacob's posture shifted, his slouch gone, standing like a soldier from old photos. The lead man stopped, eyes on Jacob. Then, to Samuel's shock, he saluted. Staff Sergeant Wren, he said clearly. It's been years. Jacob saluted back, despite his farm clothes. Colonel Harris? Colonel Harris shook Jacob's hand. You're hard to track. Wren, not hiding. Sir, Jacob said. Just moving. Until you landed at the right farm. Harris said, turning to Samuel. Mr. Holt, I'm Colonel David Harris, Army, retired. This is Captain Lopez and Lieutenant Kim. He waved at 2 officers. The rest are VA staff and old friends of Sergeant Wren. Samuel shook Harris' hand, confused. Nice to meet you, but why are you here? Harris smiled. Because of what you did for one of ours. He looked at Jacob. Did you tell him? Jacob shook his head. No reason to. No reason? Harris said, frustrated. Mr. Holt, Staff Sergeant Jacob Wren was a hero. He served 3 tours, saved lives, earned those medals Jacob clutched. After Clara's death, he spiraled, but his unit never forgot him. When we heard a farmer took him in during a blizzard, gave him food, shelter, respect, we had to come. Harris turned to Jacob. Your story spread among veterans groups. We tracked you here. Samuel blinked. I just did what was right. Exactly, Harris said. That's why we're here. He gestured to the vans. We brought VA reps to fix Jacob's paperwork. Get him benefits, housing. He looked at Samuel. And we heard about your tax trouble. Samuel stiffened. That's my business, not just yours, Harris said. Jacob told us last night. Veterans groups want to help. He nodded to an officer with a laptop. We've got donors ready to cover your taxes. Keep your farm. Samuel's throat tightened. Why? Because you showed what kindness means. Harris said. You didn't know Jacob's story. But you helped anyway. Jacob stepped forward. Mr. Holt, you gave me more than a meal. You gave me hope. Samuel looked at Jacob, then Harris, snow glinting around them. I'm not rich, Samuel said, but I was raised to do what's right. Harris smiled. And that's why we're here, to honor that. The group stayed, helping Jacob with forms, Samuel with chores. By evening, Jacob had a plan. Housing, benefits, a fresh start. Samuel's farm was safe. Taxes paid by strangers moved by his deed. As the convoy left, Harris saluted both men. Kindness in a storm, he said. It warms a lifetime. Jacob stayed another week, helping Samuel, regaining strength. When he left for his new home, he hugged Samuel. Thank you, Jacob said, for seeing me. Samuel smiled. Just doing what a Holt does. The Nebraska snow melted, but the warmth of that storm lingered forever.